Hello, hello, hello. We are back with another episode of the Jane Warren podcast. And today, y'all know I love a guest. And I have Gazzy Amin here, and she is founder of Sales Beyond Scripts. I have watched her flourish over the last few years. And I am so excited to have her here because we are going to talk about all things sales, mindset, entrepreneurship, everything I know y'all want to hear. So, Gazzy, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited for this conversation. There's nothing I love more than good company and a conversation about sales.
This is going to be amazing. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see Gazzy is sitting in the most beautiful backyard right now. And she also is a queen of a dangly earring that you can see just behind her hair, which looks amazing. I also have my dangly earrings on. So let me share with you, listeners, because Gazzy might be new to your world. So I want to share with you a little bit more about her. And I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us, because this is going to be a really fun little interview and conversation. So let's dive into this. So Gazzy, a pioneer in ethical sales, empowers impact-driven entrepreneurs through revolutionary, authentic sales methodologies. How's that sound? Amazing. With a background shaped by engaging over 100,000 individuals in politics, Gazzy launched a mission-driven venture in 2020. So, rejecting those sleazy sales tactics, she champions selling that respects both the seller and the buyer. Her commitment extends to supporting women empowerment initiatives and earning accolades from PwC speaking engagements, Channel 14 features, and newly appointed project manager of the Run the World. How amazing! In 2023, Gazzy achieved recognition as the top sales representative and introduced groundbreaking sales methodologies. All right, so get this. Her mantra, sales beyond scripts, the art of authentic connections, truly defines her mission to transform sales through genuine, impactful, and ethical practices. All right, now that was a little mouthful, but I am loving it because honestly, I know as an entrepreneur, I know the areas where I was like, oh, sales, I
Yeah.
have to do it, but I just love leading people. I love guiding people. Come to me, right? And these are the things that, I mean, if you fell into entrepreneurship, it's highly probable you didn't go to sales, you didn't go to school for
Yeah.
sales, you
Yeah.
haven't learned any sales tactics, you're looking at what everyone else is doing. It may make you go, ugh. So I'm stoked. This is going to be amazing. So, Gazzy, let's start out here. Why don't you share a little bit about you? Share a little bit with the audience on who you are and how you got to be this amazing pioneer of ethical sales.
Well, first off, hey, I'm so happy to be
Hey.
here. A little bit about me. I mean, you covered the key words in the bio, but really I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I knew even when I worked my 9 to 5 career, which was my past life, that I was meant to be an entrepreneur, and I loved entrepreneurs and I loved seeing people who were doing things outside of the standard norm of society, which was you go to school, you get a 9 to 5 and you stay there. And I knew that I wanted to do something more, but I didn't know exactly what it was. I've dabbled in entrepreneurship quite a bit. I think that's the part that um, is the honest truth. Like I could tell you, I knew I was going to build this and do this, but the reality was I didn't have that idea when I started, but I knew I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And so I've done a few things which I encourage along the way of entrepreneurship, of trying a variety of things and finding out what you're really good at and what you really want and what actually brings you joy and is your zone of genius, because that can come together really well. And over the last few years, I realized um, everybody is, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who really love what they're doing, but they struggle with a few things. And one of those things was sales. And for those entrepreneurs who are selling a product, they know that if you don't make money, your business is not going to be able to sustain itself. And a big part of being an entrepreneur, the reality is you have to have processes that bring in money. Otherwise, you just have a really expensive a hobby. And I know that that's not what we want as entrepreneurs. So what I decided was I was going to create a business that was different than all the other sales consultants that you see, because a lot of people sell in a certain way and a lot of people don't like being sold to. And so I decided we would create something unique, um, that would do something that would disrupt the industry, which is teaching people to sell in authentic ways rather than copy and paste strategies, because that's what people think they need. They need the script, they need the funnel, they need the process, they need the right words. And that's really not what sales is about. So we pull all those layers back and teach people how to find selling strategies that feel really good to them. And most times we work with epic women entrepreneurs that are doing really good things in the world. So it's awesome. We get to work with people that do good thing, and by helping them sell, they get to help more people. So that's a little bit about sales beyond scripts.
I love this. And I mean, it resonates with me big time because I know when I started out, you're right. If you have an offer, if you want to make money, you have to sell what you're offering. So why do you think it is that we always just want to take what someone else is doing and copy it? Like I know in my past, I'd see,
Yeah.
they did this, or how many courses are there out there? 0 to 5K months, 0 to 10K months. This is the secret sauce. This is how you're going to get there. So why do entrepreneurs, why do we fall victim to these things?
I think you answered a little bit of it. And at the beginning of this, you said something along the lines like, we didn't go to school to learn how to sell. I also didn't go to business school myself. I dropped out of my university program when I was in my master's, because I realized it wasn't for me. So it's not that we don't know what we don't know. And so when somebody is showing us something that we don't know, let's say I'm really passionate, I'm a photographer, let's say. I might be really good at photography, but I may not be good at selling my photography. My work may be excellent, but facilitating buying conversations may not be my strength. And so, again, entrepreneurs are passionate about what they're passionate about. They didn't know that getting into business that you'd have to sell. Like if I knew that I had to do taxes, accounting, and selling before I got into this business, I would have not known. I would have just not known. And so part of copying other people is if we don't know and people tell us this is the solution, we're going to want to give it a try. Now, my problem with these, let's call it online programs, is a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are cookie cutter approaches that may not or have not worked for everyone. And so we try different things because we saw that so and so made 5K in 5 days. And we're like, oh, we want to steal that formula. We want that framework. But what works for someone else may not work for you. And so that's where the disconnect is. I'm not discrediting any of the strategies that are out there. I remember being in a program and other people following the strategies that were being taught, and it may have worked for them, but it wasn't my vibe, like when we talk about authentic connections, it wasn't that. So I didn't want to be that sleazy sales rep. I was like, nah, this doesn't feel right for me. Like I'm not going to copy and paste to 50 people every single day. That strategy is not for me. So I guess to answer your question, this was the longer version of it, but it's like, if you don't know how to sell, you're just going to try other things. And so, listen, I've tried it. I'm not even judging people who try the copy paste strategies, the cookie cutter approaches. But now that I've really realized, I mean, after helping other women do the same, and also for my own business, realizing, okay, there's a different way that I can go. And so I'm not going to copy other people because I know that there's a better way that I can follow.
No, I love this is like so true. So true. And I laugh at myself when sometimes I catch where maybe you go to like, oh, it'd be great. You have like an intuitive nudge to reach out to someone, like let's say on LinkedIn or something. And I go back and I click on like message and I see something that I had sent them before that they never responded to. And I'm like, oh God,
No wonder they didn't
that was
respond.
that was in that era. I'm like, that was that season or month where I was trying this approach. And it's so funny because this recently happened yesterday. And I actually I wrote them again. And however, I wrote it from a true place of truth because I had had dinner with a mutual contact, like someone we mutually know. And I said, hey, like, I was just having dinner with Yvonne and we were talking and reminiscing about the good old days at New Run. And I'm like, like,
Yes.
how amazing was that? Like, and we thought of you and it was
Yes.
genuine and true and started conversation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was from a
Yes.
genuine place.
Yes.
And, but when I look back, and so again, we're telling you, like anyone listening right now, that's, maybe you literally are copy pasting this morning or doing those things. It's okay. All we can do is do with the information that we know, right?
Yep.
Act based off what we know. And if this is what you've been taught so far, then that's okay. Gaz is going to enlighten you on new ways that you can do
Yeah.
things that are going to align better to you and,
Yes.
won't feel so cringy. I love in your bio, Gazzy, how you say, you get away from the sleazy sales. So I feel a big piece, at least what I've learned personally with sales, there's a lot of mindset stuff behind it and self-image almost type work in a way. Because yeah, we do for whatever reason. When we think sales, we think those and like people knocking on your door. We think
Yep.
your phone just ringing from random numbers. It's like if someone hasn't responded to your email, you're like, oh God, because I know what it's like to be like, oh, just bumping this to the top of your inbox, bumping
Yeah.
this to the top of your
Yeah.
inbox. And I'm like, am I that person? Like, so I think for me personally, I had to work through some mindset pieces. How much does that play a part in when you're working with your clients?
A huge part, obviously, because again, um, I want to be honest to say, sales kind of has a bad name, right? You mentioned all those things that we avoid. So we avoid when people knock on our door. We don't like when people call us for air duct cleaning. Um, my husband's a perfect example. Any store we go into and anyone asks like, "Oh, do you need help with something?" Like he's just like avoiding the sales reps, He's like, they're gonna try and sell me something. And so generally, there's kind of a icky vibe to selling. So a big part of that is building a different understanding of what sales really is about so that you can feel good doing it and so that others can feel good receiving it. Because I could tell you, honestly, I could tell you, go call 15 people today. Let's say that's like the income producing activity. But if you're not thinking about the activity right, and you're not holding a winner's image for yourself, and you're not having a clear intention of why you're having this conversation with this person, you're either not going to do it or you're going to do it and you're not going to like doing it. And likely the result's not going to be what you want. So it's not about what to do because there's enough information for people telling you what to do. People get stuck. So where do they get stuck? Most times it's in that mindset area. I've also been there myself as well, where I've used language and said things like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to follow up again, or what are they going to think about me? Or I don't want them to think I'm salesy. That's like something I hear a lot. People say, I don't want to feel salesy when I sell. And so that tells me that it's not a mechanics issue. It's more so a mindset issue. And so a lot of the times we have to go there first because we always come back here. It's a big one for peeps.
No, that's great perspective. And I think for anyone listening that might feel that way, this could be a bit of a opening of your awareness on
Mhm.
why, you can't get behind your sales. Like why can't you get behind it? And I feel many reframes that I've had to make, but when we think about as service providers, as a coach myself, the value I give my clients, right? The life-changing transformations that can
Yes.
happen. I'm just like, I want to scream this off the rooftops. Like, yo, everyone, work with me. Like, why wouldn't you want an
Yeah.
amazing life? Like, why wouldn't you want your dreams to come true? It's like you can have the freedom you want right now. And it's funny, but when you start to shift to think, okay, no, I'm really helping people. And
Yes.
inevitably, I know that by getting my energy in the right place, just like in all areas of my life, for my dating life, getting my energy in the right place allowed me to attract the right type of person. So I think that's like really key. How do you help then? Like when you talk about these authentic connections, and so selling through, that genuineness, that authenticity and connections, tell us about that journey.
Where to start? I think where it started really for me was I remember people telling me to do things in a certain way and me just being like, that's not my vibe. So I started to ask myself, like, how would I like to sell? Like, what is authentic Gazzy? And every client that I've worked with, I find there's some similarities, but everyone's unique in their own way. And so the way in which they like to sell can also be very different. So it's about really understanding what's like, what would you like to do? Some people like to sell on social, some people don't like that. Some people like to sell over the phone, some people don't like that. Some people like to send voice notes, some people don't like that. So it's not about saying this is the way to do it and having to do it that way. It's about looking at different ways. Lots of companies sell in different ways. You'll find people in the same industry use different sales models, different business strategies. What would feel really good for you? And then kind of creating a business model around that. Like, I remember someone telling me to use a certain type of funnel. That wasn't me. I didn't want people to come into my program who had never talked to me before. But that coach was saying, like, it's the best is to make an evergreen model. Sure, it's a good business strategy. I could sell that way. So I'm not saying it's not the right vibe, but for me, I wanted to work with people that I connected with. And so for that to happen, I wanted to have a sales call. Now, some people would be like, no way. I don't want to have a sales conversation. I want to sell through DMs. Beautiful. So again, it's not a this is the way. There's many ways. I I have people who don't post on social media and make money. And then there's people online that are like, if you don't post on social media, you won't make money. People are like, oh, if you don't have a funnel, you won't make money. I've seen success come through lots of ways. So it's not about finding the one framework. It's about finding what kind of a business would you want to build and then kind of creating a sales process that's unique to you rather than trying to fit yourself in a box. You create the process because you know what you like most. Did I explain it
Oh
well
yeah,
there?
no, that was so great. It's so great. And you touched on something I wrote down on my paper, on my book here. And I think we need to remember that we almost attract our past self, right? We almost attract people that are very similar to us in ways. And I know that where I've felt resistance is when I'm trying things that don't align to like how I buy. And I even think about, it's interesting, my coach and mentor now like puts me in line because she's like, when I get a little impatient and I start questioning
Yes.
some things, and then she's like, Jane, okay, let's see here. How did you buy from me? You know what I mean? Like, and in it's interesting actually, in my case with her, I'm a very decisive person and she came highly recommended. So I didn't like follow her profusely and so forth. Like I slid into her DMs and basically asked how I signed up. Now I might be, a special case that does that, but a lot of people, especially my clients that work with me, I mean, I see them in the background for a while. Like, they could be following me. They could have told me a year ago that, I can't wait for the time that I get to work with you. Like, I love everything you're putting out. They're telling me this, they're resonating with it. So I'm like, beautiful. This is hitting home for you. They're not quite ready. Again, it's like, I'm not going to force anyone to work with me. You need to be ready.
Yes.
You need to want to. You're going to know, I'm going to know they're aligned because I know who they are. And then, so I need to remember how many various touch points these individuals need, that they're on
Yes.
their own timeline. I just did some human
Yes.
design work and
Yes.
like figuring out my human design and it last night, and it just blew my mind because I found out I'm a projector, and I found out that basically my strategy is waiting for the invitation. And what that means is I'm not someone that sits around and waits, but what that means is truly aligning so that in order for me to be successful, I align to individuals that decide like basically they're ready. They value what I offer. They see what I'm doing. They respect what I'm doing. They're ready to embark and come into my space. And it was just like I was like, wow, that blew my mind
Yes. Yes.
because it makes a
Yes.
lot of sense with the work that I do, and how sometimes, my impatience doesn't align well with wait to be invited. I'm like, nah, I am the invite. I make the invite. But the thing is, what you realize, especially in coaching and mindset coaching, and even what you're doing is like, you can see that someone needs it. You can see that someone would greatly benefit from it. But as I say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. So it's like you have to allow that.
Yeah, I think that's like the word force is one of the things that people is one of the pressures they feel around sales. And so when I'm working in my own business and also helping my clients, I'm really focused on trying to remove that feeling around the processes that we create. If I'm a listener, I would be taking notes of kind of the language that you're using, like their timeline, when it's right for them. I think those are some of the ethical practices that we talk about in sales. In the online space, you will be exposed to some unethical sales methods where it does feel sleazy, where it does feel like anyone's a good fit. We're just trying to make a buck. Um, and so when you create something different, as you have, and I can hear that in your language of when it's the right time for them and staying there for them and building that long-term connection rather than making people feel like they either have to make a decision or that you're using language or giving promises that would by any means shape or manipulate their decision making. That's one of the things that is very important for me as someone who is a leader in the sales space and trying to make a very good name for our industry is that sales is an ethical practice. It's about being of service to people. And so I can hear that in your language when you're saying like, giving helping them and them chiming in and saying I can't wait to work with you and you allowing and respecting their journey and honoring that that eventually leads to more sales and
Mm-hmm.
a desire for people to want to work for you because force is actually a repellent in sales. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we put obstacles or use language or put people in position where the energy, I'm not saying you're forcefully saying something, but the energy is forceful. They
Mm-hmm.
feel that, and that's why they run away, or feel like they don't want to work with you or they don't want to buy your product. Versus when we open that up and respect timelines, it's actually people want to lean in. It's more of an invitation. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like I see a lot of both sides in the online space and I'm rooting for the ethical vibes and I can hear that and obviously no surprise that we're aligned on those
Yeah.
visions as well. That's what ethical sales is about for me.
I love that. And I think that's a nice approach to it and calling it ethical sales. And it is a vibe. Like every single individual is their own vibe. And you need to be, if you're feeling ugh about what you're doing, like reevaluate. Think, does it align to your core values? Is it aligned to what you really believe in? Is it how you would want to be sold to? I had
Yeah.
a previous client of mine reach out recently and she was like, I just had to tell you this. I met a woman at a networking event. She said it was amazing. She was so lovely.
Yes,
They got on a
yes.
call just to like, it wasn't design. Well, she didn't realize it was a sales call, but they got on a call and this woman basically picked her apart, tore her down. She said she basically cried, but not like a breakthrough cry, like oh my God, like you're triggered, like obviously feeling very triggered
Yeah.
by this woman.
Yeah.
And this woman's like, you would really benefit from my program. You should be in my program, all these things. And she
Yeah.
told me, and she's like, honestly, Jane, like it was so messed up. And she's like, the messed up thing is that I know what she was doing because I've taken business courses and
Yes.
that's what they had us do is when you're selling on pain points and you're like, solving their pain points by your
Not my vibe
solution.
at all. Not
No,
my
I
vibe
know,
at all.
right?
And the reality is, to your point, that exists. So people are doing that. I'm a huge advocate for networking and I go networking all the time. And I know when someone's trying to sell me something and I avoid them because I know they're just trying to get a buck. They're not in it for the long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Whereas there has been people that I've met, multiple people that I've met at networking where it's blossomed into the most epic relationships, but it's because I'm not doing that stuff. Like that's messed up. First of all, a sales call, people have to know that they're getting on a sales conversation.
I
And
know.
right? So when people like offer to get on calls, and I know underneath the layer is I'm going to try and sell you my product or service, I'm not going to want to meet with that person, obviously. And it really like I'm getting uncomfortable hearing that this exists, but the
You
truth
change
is it
positions.
I know I'm literally getting heated. Like I'm like, this still happens in the industry, but then that also reminds me like why I'm building what I'm building because
Hmm.
we have to do better. We must do better. Um, and that's why part of it is both people need to feel respected through the process. And what you're explaining is an example where the prospect did not feel respected, did not feel like they did not, I'm going to use the word consent. They did not consent to getting on a sales call. And then to have a sales call where someone's coaching you and then suggesting a solution to your pain point being their offer without you agreeing or asking for this. Yeah, straight up unethical. I just did a 3-part series on that on Instagram of like the difference between sales calls and coaching and where it gets unethical. Yeah, and to hear that this is still happening, it kind of irks me, but I'm also like, okay, it motivates me to be like, this is why we got to teach women not to do this at networking. Please don't do this. If you're listening, don't do this networking. Book calls after networking events for sure. Go on coffee dates, but it's kind of
Hmm.
like, okay, this is the example I have. If you're to go on a date with someone, you don't want them to be like trying to date you or like kiss you or like get in your face right away. Like there's some steps, like we kind
They'd
of
be
like,
like, want to buy a house together? You're like,
yeah,
whoa,
like you're
calm
coming on
down.
too strong,
Yeah.
like there's like, we got to get to know each other. We got to like build trust. We got to build safety. We got to build um rapport. We got to get like, all these other things before like, let me pitch you my product. So yeah, that's like avoid networking 101. Don't do that shit while networking. Icky for
Yeah,
sure.
so icky, so icky. And it's so true. There's nothing wrong with having have a coffee chat. And that's something I personally love to do in some of the communities I'm in. When I'm looking for something like I do corporate wellness workshops and mindset workshops. I reached out in a community wanting to genuinely connect with
Mhm.
women in HR and people and culture to learn what they're doing because I want to hear what organizations are doing now. COVID is like, people are going back in office. I want to hear about the initiatives they're doing. And
Mhm.
look, if it organically turns into something where they're curious about what I do or anything I offer, the
Yes.
conversation comes up. But the whole purpose of the entire time is me to gather information, being grateful and appreciative for the information they're providing me and giving me their time. And then it's like they always ask, they're like, oh, so someone's like, I checked out your website. Pretty cool. Like, tell me more about what you
Yes.
do. And it
Yes.
literally turns into
Yes.
something. And then before I know it, I'm sending them a proposal and booking a workshop. But
Yes.
again,
Yes.
that's not
Yes.
my end goal is not that. My end goal is actually just to meet women in the industry because you never know who that could connect with.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
30 minutes is so worth my time. And it's like, so that's like the approach. That's how I take, like, trying to take, my ethical way of doing it and my
Yes.
creative way. Like, how could I connect with women that, like, the type of women I want to get in front of from a genuine place?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I have had the most amazing conversations. Like, I never know what's going to come out of them. And it's
Yes.
just like, I
Yes.
love it.
And that people can feel that. And so that's like, you can feel that and so can the other person. So I'm I'm advocating for get booked calls. Yes. I'm advocating for get in meetings, go to networking, collect data, build your database, find leads. Like all of those things I'm down for. So it's not to say like don't sell. You got to sell. It's a business non-negotiable. So in order to sell, you got to talk to more people and sell more. Sell yourself and the product, the service, whatever it is. So that part is 100%. What I love that you've done is like, you got to do that. Now, how can you do it in your own way? When you get on a call and you genuinely want to know and you're curious, people feel that. When you get
Mhm.
on a call and you have a script and an intention to close a deal, people can feel that. So a lot of this is like an energy thing as well. I
Mhm.
know when I get on a call and someone's from the first 5 minutes of the conversation, I know where this is going. So
Mhm.
that's not because I'm a sales consultant. No, I just feel it. The vibe is off. They're not there to be curious and open. They're there with an intention. So if you can really zoom out to authenticity, which is what you're doing. You're just being yourself. Yourself is curious. You want to know what the industry's doing. And then that results to sales. So obviously we want to bring it back to the sales perspective, but we don't want to go in with that because that is a turnoff in sales. You want to go in with curiosity and give value. People love when you're curious. People love when you help them with things. That helps to shape what can be a sales conversation, but you don't want to lead with that. That's what gives people the icks.
Okay, so what can we leave our listeners with? Because yeah, you might need to go back and get out your pen and paper if you weren't taking notes during this, because there's so many juicy things. First, for the entrepreneur that's listening and they're feeling about their sales, they know that they can make improvements to what they're doing. What is one thing that they can do today that is going to help them, get more aligned, get behind their sales, get their energy behind it? What's something they can do today to help them get there?
Can I give two?
You can give three, girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, that'd be hard to zone
I
it
know
in.
one's
Because
hard, but
because there's two parts to it. There's first the mindset part that you can change today. And then there's the mechanics part, shit you got to do today. And then you either do both or you take what you need. From a mindset part, I would go back to the video where you're talking at the beginning of this audio and listen to how you explain your beliefs about selling and what you give people. You're someone who's done the mindset work. In your language, you can hear it. If you want to shift your relationship with sales, you have to change your language and your feeling around it. You are like, I know that I help people. That's a winning sales mindset,
yeah.
believing in your product. And so from a mindset thing, you have to believe that you're helping people, or else you're just never going to want to sell. Even if you have the strategy, you're never going to want to do it. When you know you can help someone, people want to help people. As humans, we care about helping people. That's my belief, my core belief. So if we can orient our belief around that, around selling, that's going to make a huge stride
And I'm not saying
mindset
I'm
wise.
doing this to make money, right? It's
Yes.
like that's one belief, that's a whole other podcast episode. Maybe we'll come back for part two.
That's kind of
But
like the result of it.
that is money is the result, and that's the biggest mistake, that we think we're going after the money, but money is the result of you doing what fulfills you and
Yes.
working in your zone of
Yes.
genius. And the money is inevitably is going to come. It's going to come more than you could ever really
Yep.
imagine, probably,
Yep.
when you're
Yep.
aligned to that. But yes, the money is the result. The money is
Yeah.
not
I won't
where you're
forget the other
going.
day my mentor telling me on the phone as well, like, don't forget the number in your bank account is proportionate to the amount of people you're helping. Don't forget that. And I was like, don't forget
Ooh.
that, Gazzy. Like, don't forget that. So if I help more people, it's inevitable that wealth is going to come. It's a part of the package. So how can I orient my sales mindset around helping people? That's that. When we help people, we'll make money. So to your point, don't make it about making money. Make it about helping people. Then I want to talk. It would be bad if we ended this podcast and didn't talk about this, because I
Yeah,
think
for
in the
sure.
online space, we talk a lot about like attracting sales and, it just happening so easily. You wake up and there's Stripe accounts coming in and money's flowing. At the end of it, if we look at people who are successful and profitable, there are certain what I call sales habits or sales disciplines that drive that. And so I would invite you to get clear on what that is for you. And when you know what that is, you do that every day, right? So for me, again, I don't try a lot of things. There's a few things that I do, like talk to X amount of people, do X amount of things. Those things drive money. Get clear on what that is for you and set time in your calendar to do that.
Yes.
You
I
got to
love
do it.
this.
You got to do the
Yes.
work.
100%. And this is what I identified with. I started working with a coach in January. And I said to her, I know I'm not doing the shit to take my business to the next level. The
Bam.
basic shit. I know I'm gonna call myself out and I'm gonna use this community to keep me accountable, but I know I'm not doing it. And then I had to like align to, who I wanted to go after, get clear on that. Once I had that clarity, it was like, let's go. And I just did a post about it this week where I have at 3 p.m., which is going to be earlier soon, but because I have a contract job right now, at 3 p.m. every day, I get a notification that I have my millionaire non-negotiables. And I call it my millionaire non-negotiables because it's like, bitch, you ain't going to be a millionaire if you're not doing the fucking basic shit that one day you can pay someone to do. But, for right now, I need to do it. And yes, I do have a VA and she does things for me, but like these are things that I need to hone in on the habits of because like I'm building this business is me. And so it's like there's 5 and it's not too many. There's 5 things just like you, connecting with so many people, blah, blah, blah. I have 5 things. And it's like,
and I love that's what you do.
It.
That's what you do. Some people feel like they can shift that to the VA. That's not authentic sales anymore. When you do it, it hits different, right?
Like building those connections, right? Writing your content. Like it has to come from me.
Authenticity always wins, and people can feel that. They'll know if you've got someone else to write it or if you've written it. I love that you take time to do that. And it's exactly that. Like some of my clients call it different thing. You have your power hour, your daily disciplines, your non-negotiables, whatever it is. There's a few things that you will know that these things produce income. They're income producing activities. So there is no secret sauce other than you do the things often and you do them well and you learn to get better at them and you stay consistent with doing. That's a sales foundational that you got to do, right? So I feel like a lot of people just we wish it could be easier, but it is easy. It's a few things every single day that are going to make you money, and in long term it'll be worth it. It's not the sexy shit that you want to post about online, but it's the shit you got to do to grow the business. And so I can't advocate for that enough. I do it myself. It's my power hour. It's my time to connect with my prospects, give value to my leads. Nobody else can do it for me, and when I don't do it, I don't make money, and when I do it, I make money. So it's pretty simple.
No, agreed. And that is great way to wrap this up because if you don't do it, it ain't gonna happen. And the more you put it off, the more it ain't gonna happen. And I love what your mentor said to you about the number of money, the amount of money in your bank account is basically relative and in relation to how many clients you're helping. I'm gonna share that in my mastermind and with my community as well, because that is like, damn. And it's almost like, it makes you think, okay, Jane, chill the F out. Like, you're expecting, you want to have this like 50K in your bank account tomorrow. How many clients are you serving in this moment? How many offers do you have that generate that, right? It's like, no, it's going to happen.
It has to. It has to. It's just inevitable. And I think of it as like, even hearing you say it, like, so that makes me think that if every convo I'm going in with the intention of helping people, whether the money comes through that deal or not, it must, because I'm in the frequency of giving, I'm being of value. And so when I'm helping people, the money's going to catch up in the bank account anyways, whether it's through that actual lead, prospect, program, offer, whatever. It's the energy of the more you help, the more it's going to flow back in. So I love that. It keeps me grounded in this work of sales.
Oh, so good. So good. My mind's going like we could literally talk for 3 hours. So we're going to cap it at this. This is so much juice and so good, Gazzy. This has been an absolute pleasure. Looking at your harmonious background and peaceful background just brings me so much joy too. So thank you for being here. I'm definitely going to have you back.
Would love to be back. Again, we can go for 3 hours. We need a part 2 of this for sure.
1,000%. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jane.